is Christine Timmon, also known as the Gangster of the Constitution and the United States Queen of the Constitution, and I'm coming to you today from the Bell Broadcasting Network. They have saw fit to be a part of moving you into the future and out of the darkness of despair that we've lived in now for 53 years. I am so happy to be here with you today. Now, I'm not going to try to scare you, but what I got to say, it may scare you. So what we're going to do now, we're going to go straight to my agenda. And I wrote them down, but I'm not going to do them as they are. I'm just going to look and see what's very important right now. Right now, I think it's very important that people know that the Supreme Court has honored President Trump's ban on Muslims from 6 or 7 nations. And the reason that I think it's important is because we don't really know enough about the Muslims. No, we do not. Now, I want to tell you, I've been around here quite a few years. 68 years I've been doing the U.S. Constitution since Scripps Elementary School. So I know every word of it. So don't try to challenge me on it. Now, the Muslims, when we were little, we never heard of them. Then all of a sudden, after President Johnson, Tip O'Neill, and the Supreme Court let Congress take over immigration from the states. And we're going to look at that in the Constitution shortly, because the Constitution gives immigration power, believe it or not, to the people first, and then the states. Now, when Johnson was losing votes to Republicans after must have been about 35 years they were in power. But you know, people, they get tired and they'd like something new. So they started going after Republicans. So what President Johnson and Tip O'Neill did, they tried to get the states to amend the Constitution, and everywhere it said states do immigration, they wanted them to strike the word state and insert the word Congress. Well, no state was going to do that because they made money. See, people, immigration is not free. No. The first thing you have to do in this Constitution, you have to have a sponsor, and that sponsor has to get you registered. Then you have to be vetted. Then you have to have a state work visa. And if you want to be a citizen, you had to be sworn in as a legal state resident first. And then the state was the one that sent the papers to the naturalized division in D.C. No, it was in Maryland. And they had to have a check with it. Yeah, that is why the states had to charge money for each step of the process. Now, I'm going to read to you what the Constitution says. It's only 19 words. I really don't have to read it, but, you know, I prefer to do so because sometimes I get so excited, you know, that I stumble over the words. Oh, here it is. I got another. See, I carry 2 or 3 of them with me everywhere I go because it's very important that we learn. This is what we had to learn in elementary school. Scripps Elementary, 4th, 5th, and 6th grade. We had to know everything in here that pertained to Congress. There's 26 clauses for them. There's 16 amendments. Those belong to the people. And then we had to know the clause that did the power of the states and our rights as people. I'm going to read you the first 19 words of the immigration law. It says, the migration or importation of such persons is what any of the states now existing shall think proper to admit. Did you hear me say city? No, you didn't. Did I say village? No. It says states. And that was what President Johnson wanted. He wanted that stricken and put what the Congress think proper. But what state going to ratify that and take away all of their money? So they didn't do it. I'll tell you what happened in a minute. Then it goes on to say that Congress could not prohibit this before the year 1108, but a tax or duty may be imposed on such importation not exceeding $10 for each person. See, the founding fathers made you pay for it to keep immigration at a constitutional level. So if you say it was $10 300 years ago, that's about $400 now. So each state in this day and time is supposed to be paying the United States government anywhere from $300 to $400 for everyone that they want to bring. Like the sanctuary cities and all that, they have to pay the United States for that. Of course, they don't know it yet. Maybe one day this will come out. So now you heard, immigration is really a state issue. Now, some people are going to say it's the slavery clause. That's how they fool people. But the slavery clause is Article 4, Section 2. It says if you are in servitude or labor and you escape from that, you are not free. Whoever finds you got to return you to where you come from. And then it has an asterisk at the bottom that shows you to go to Amendment 13 where slavery was abolished. There's no asterisk down here telling you that. This means anybody who comes to this country is an immigrant and you got to pay for them. It has nothing to do with slavery. It doesn't even say slavery in there. It just says import, migrants or imports. It does not say slavery, but they got to try to fool you all they can. So that is why I'm concerned about the Muslims, because under the new thing that President Johnson and the Supreme Court wrote, under that, people can just walk across the border willy-nilly. You don't have to stop and pay the state nothing. In fact, under the new law that President Johnson had the Supreme Court to institute, even though it's not really even legal, because it's against the Constitution. Nothing in it. I'm going to tell you what the name of it is. You can look it up yourself. It's the United States Immigration and Naturalizing Act of 1965. That's what wrote away all people's right to come to this country under the Constitution and not be deported or called illegal. Before President Johnson put that thing on the people, nobody ever heard of illegal, because everybody came under what you just heard. Article 1, Section 9, the first 19 words say all they got to do is register with the state. Now we're going to take it over to Amendment 14. This is the second part of it. Section 3. It says that no state shall deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of laws. That means foreigners are equal with each other, not Americans. And they have to go through a due process of law. So you can't just walk into the state. Someone first has to take you through the due process. Now, the due process is you got to know somebody. You need a sponsor. Then you need to get registered. Each step costs money. Then you have to be vetted, get a state work visa, and sworn in. So that's the due process. They haven't done that since 1965. So this means that the Muslims, Latinos, I don't care where you come from, if you didn't go through those first two processes, you are not a citizen. Just because President Johnson made up something so he could open the borders. See, what he wanted to do, he wanted to open the borders so that anybody could come. And that was when we first started hearing about illegals. They were illegal because you heard what the book says. You got to go through this. No, actually, it's the people first, because you have to have a sponsor. A sponsor has to take you to the state unless you got so much money that you can afford to do a state sponsorship. That was very expensive. So when you see all these people walking around here, stop being afraid of them. Start quoting the Constitution. Get you a book. And I'll tell you the worst thing about what Johnson did. When he took those people's rights to come to this country, he fixed it so they can never be a citizen now because they've already been illegal. And he fixed it so their citizenship was null and void from the beginning, which means they can't really vote either. No. And their children. Let's go back to Amendment 14. This is what the Muslims are trying to hang on to now. Let me show what they're trying to do. I can't even believe it. Oh, I believe it because it's so much money involved here. This is what the Muslims and the Latinos are screaming on TV now. I know you guys see them. They think that they have birthrights in the United States because their children were born here. That simply is not true. Amendment 14 actually prohibits their children from being citizens. Actually prohibits it. Here's what it says. It's very few words, about 8 or 9 words. It says, all persons born or naturalized. That's where everybody stops. Oh, my child was born here. But you've got to read the rest of it. There's a caveat. It says, and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and the state where they reside. Well, if your mama and daddy was born overseas and they come to these shores, go back to the 3rd clause where it says, no state shall deny to anyone in its jurisdiction life, liberty, and such. So since they were not born here and they haven't been naturalized, Amendment 14, Section 1 prohibits them from having birthrights or being citizens because you weren't born here. You are under the jurisdiction of the United States until you become constitutionally naturalized. So therefore, if you have a child, the United States can't take the child from you, or no one can. I'll get a sip of water here. Well, thank you very much. United States, or no one can take that child. They can't claim it because you are a citizen or subject of another country and you just got here and you have not been sworn in as a legal resident of the state so you can be naturalized by the Constitution. So your baby cannot be a citizen except for one thing. One parent has got to be an American. Then they can get their birthrights through whoever the American parent is. Now, you see all of these women coming across that border, holding up a baby. Oh, I got a baby. And I ran across the border. They had a baby in time to get a check. You know what? That person would have to prove that the baby daddy was the parent and the American citizen. And guess what? The baby daddy got to go pick up any entitlement of that baby. That woman can't get a dime. No. As we go along here, if you stick with me throughout these shows, you're going to find out stuff that will curl your hair even if you ain't got none. You'll grow hair. Listen to what all the stuff that they're doing to you people. That woman can't get any money, and then she's committed 2 crimes. She crossed the border without permission. She got to have permission from the state. Remember that? She can't just run across. She got to already be sent her papers in with her sponsor, and that's how she gets her passport. If she doesn't have that, you're not even supposed to get a passport. So now she's here. She's committed a felony, 18 U.S.C. 1325, crossed the border without permission. Then she's violated the Mann Act, crossing borders to use a child in the commission of a crime. That's a felony. See, these are the things that they don't want the modern people to know. So President Johnson made sure that the Constitution was taken out of the schools, because in the 50s everybody knew it. So when he tried to do all of his stuff, we followed him and we raised a lot of sand the same way they do. So as we went along, he said, well, wait a minute, too many of them know what we doing. So they took that Constitution out of that school. They sure did. And this is where we are now. You guys think that everything they're doing, that they're supposed to be doing, you have absolutely no idea. Now, getting back to our Muslims, on this subject of this birthrights, they're the ones who are screaming the loudest. You know why? Because Daddy can have 5 or 6 wives. And do you know that he can collect, each wife can get a check? They probably can be living in the same house. They all get a check. Yes, they do. So now you see why they're driving Lexuses, Beamers, Cadillacs and stuff. Those girls are not allowed to keep that money. Sometimes the first check could be as much as 10 or 15,000, because they once you register, it takes the processing time, and you get the back pay from day one that you signed for it. So Daddy is riding high. Yes, he is. And here's what I think about that. I think that's called, in the Bible, I believe it's called carrying the price of a dog or something of that nature. And also, I think it's an orgy, a birth from an orgy. I'm just saying, I told you, if you're scared, don't stay here. We don't know what they do in these rooms to get all these babies. And see, that's why their population is spreading. It's not because of one person. It's because one man impregnates as many women as he can to go sell that child to any government that will buy it. Well, here's what's wrong with that in America. Let us go to Article 1, Section 9, Clause 8. It says that the federal government, and not the state, it says the federals, they can't receive any gifts, bicycle, whatever you want to give, gold, whatever, tangible or intangible. Now, tangible is like the cars, they want to give that. And also the intangible, a part of that is votes. Because you can't just hold it in your hand, but it's something that was given to you from a foreigner who has not been constitutionally naturalized. And when they say that we're bringing them here to work because the labor is cheaper and they do jobs that Americans don't want to do, that's also intangible. You can't feel it, but it's something that was given to you by a foreigner. See, they're not supposed to receive anything from foreigners at all. Nothing. So how can they be in charge of immigration if they can't receive? How can they take other people's babies? That's the worst one. They're receiving flesh from the foreigners when they take that baby, because the baby doesn't have a man. It just came here. It don't know that its mom and dad is both foreign. It don't know that its mom and daddy is prohibited by the Constitution from bringing that child. That child don't know that. But they will find out one day, sooner or later. The same has happened in Dominican Republic about 2 years ago. They invalidated birthrights and citizenship back to 1929 because it was against their constitution. They came there because the same thing they come here for when they have a problem. But they stayed and stayed and stayed all those years until the Supreme Court of the Dominican Republic put them all out. You know why? They always keep up a bunch of trouble. And the Muslim, as far as I'm concerned, is even worse. At least the Haitians don't lay up and with puppy mills. Those kids, I think it's the most awful thing that a woman and a man can do is get together and plan to have babies. Now, in their religion, they can only have as many wives as they can afford. So they said, well, sure, we're going to America. Them stupid people over there, I can have 10 wives. I don't care how many wives they got. Each one of them can individually get on welfare. They get that one legal wife, and then they can have as many as they want. And then the black people wonder why they ain't got nothing. Because you can't do nothing. The white people can't do that either. Just the Muslim. Talking about their religion. So I say they're a bunch of religious pimps. That's what I call them. And insofar as their religion go, whatever they call it, it seems to me more of a war strategy than a praising and a worshiping, because they seek to take over the world and haven't done anything but have sex and get a bunch of babies. And the United States just gives them everything else. And you guys think they're supposed to be doing that because of their religion. But let me tell you, let's go back to Amendment number 1 now. Because they're always talking about their religion. Here's what it really says. Number 1, it says, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of a religion. Did you hear what that just said? Congress can't respect none of them. The Methodist, the Catholic, nobody. The Muslim, nobody can they respect. But they telling y'all, it's a separation. It's not really a separation. Congress can't do it at all. And it goes on to say, nor prohibiting the freedom of exercise of your religion. The Muslim tell you, if you don't do my religion, you ain't going to make it, period. What they call people infidels and all that, how they going to call somebody some infidels and they're a bunch of religious pimps? They're giving birth in orgies practically with all them different women, and then go and make the taxpayers of the United States pay for it. So I saw something online, and you can look this up. Just look up hijab, that's Hijab. They put the hijab on the Statue of Liberty. Now, I was told that it was the first prize in some high school art contest. Now, I got upset when I first saw it, because, why you want to mess with the Statue of Liberty? So I thought they were trying to use this, whoever this artist was, to promote Muslims in America. And then one of our congressmen, Joel Correa of California, he has got it on his wall outside his door. And several people have been there to ask him to take it down. So instead of getting mad, I did like Christine Timmon always do. The gangster of the Constitution. I thought about that. And when I remembered how this portrait looked, the woman in the hijab had on really heavy black eye makeup. You know, that real heavy one that them goth people wear and the prostitutes? Then her lips, they had them full Kim Kardashian lips with dark red lipstick on it. I said, hey, wait a minute. Hijab women can't do that. They can't put nothing on their face in that hijab. I said, oh my goodness. This person is trying to say the Muslim women's a bunch of whores. You got to think about it. And I called the consul of Arab in Islamic relations yesterday, and I talked to a young lady. She hadn't saw it. She pulled it up. She said, oh, I could hear her. I said, now, are Muslim women allowed to do that in a hijab? She said, man, we can't do that in anything. We ain't supposed to. So you have to think outside the box. It's the same thing I tell black people and white people, too, who call themselves Democrats. those people just using you for your vote. Yeah, they're bringing these Muslims over here, but these people, 95% of them vote Democrats. So a Hispanic Democrat, they really don't like Muslim either. But the votes, he brought that photo of that drawing and put it on his wall. Now I have exposed him to the Muslim. I said, you people should be insulted. You should be enraged. He's making it look like all Muslim women are whores. And that's the way I saw it, and that's the way I call it. So you Google that picture and see, won't you see the same thing? When you Google a real Muslim woman in a hijab, she do not have on no Kim Kardashian lips and prostitute street walking ass. So I'm going to call it. I'm going to call it is that art actually meant that the Muslim women are a bunch of whores. And I don't have much more I can say. I done told you about the way they have babies. One man got 6 or 7 or 10 women, and then you go sell them all to the state, and you haven't invented anything. Most of the invention was done by the white people and black people, with the blacks first. And now they're running these articles in the Metro Times talking about what the Muslim did in 5 years. Yeah, they came up here and took our job that were already invented. We don't need their engineering. We don't need their nothing. We need them to go home and look at all of the ones that were arrested for Medicare fraud right in Michigan. So I can say to you, I'm about to wrap up on the Muslims. We hope they go home. They're just a bunch of beggars trying to make like they got this what you call it, religion supremacy, Muslim supremacy, and they can't even read and write. They can't. Look at what they're doing overseas. They're scaring the bejeebers out of white people. I say it's time the white people get up and start doing like we had to do to get out of slavery. They practically got the white people overseas in slavery. They scared of them. Now the Russians, just Google Russians, how they handle Muslims. Oh, you don't want to know. It's scary. You don't come there messing around. In the Netherlands, it's cutting off all welfare. See, that's all they're doing is going all over the world, getting in everybody's welfare, and have 6 and 7 babies. Just count that out. If a man got 7 women, he got 49 kids for us to take care of. So, Muslims, go home. Stop begging. Stop acting like you so supreme. Ain't no such thing as no Muslim supremacy and telling people what to wear. And how can you tell people what to wear on the street and you get behind closed doors and you do some awful things to bring your children to this world? I'm just a little sick of it myself. I'm just tired. So we're going to end them for now. Now let's look through some of this other stuff here. We talked about the birthright. They ain't got none. Okay, let's go to Article 1, Section 8. That's the one that tells you they can't get any money. I know y'all think. I know what y'all think. But forget about it. This is what it says. Congress' power to spend money is limited. It says Congress shall have the power to collect taxes for debts, general welfare of the United States, and defense of the nation. That's it. All this other stuff y'all see them doing. General welfare of the nation, that would include, say, if states and cities need infrastructure, all of that's included. But did you hear it say non-citizen? No, you didn't hear it. It says debts. Do we owe non-citizens any money? What do we owe them when they walk across that border? Didn't I just tell you that Article 1, Section 9, Clause 8 says, see diplomats, ambassadors, and the big shots of the countries. And then they can't take any gifts from them. So then they cannot take the people that belong to those diplomats as American citizens because they're already a citizen of another country. But they've been getting away with this stuff until now. Believe me, just practically everything you see going on in D.C., I had something to say about it. I had something to do with it because I'm sick of it. I just read to you that Congress cannot give your tax dollars to anything but what's going on in these United States. And there's a very suspicious sounding name when they do that. It's called a violation of the Emoluments Clause. Yeah, I know. See, they got y'all because they took all that away from you. You don't know what the heck I'm talking about. That's how they beating you behind. It says, no money shall be drawn from the treasury, but in consequence of appropriations made by law. That don't mean the mess that President Johnson made up in the U.S. Immigration Naturalizing Act. That means they have to look in here. If it don't say that Congress can appropriate money for non-citizens, they can't do it. So DACA and all these immigrants, they're actually supposed to be under, remember we read Amendment 14, where it says no state shall deny due process to anyone in its jurisdiction. Remember, we determined that they cannot be under jurisdiction of the United States. It's prohibited because they weren't born here. And they're subject of another country, as it says here. They're not subject to our jurisdiction. They have to go under state jurisdiction. And the state is the one who's supposed to give them anything they need. That's why they have to pay for entry into each state. And then don't forget, they still got to pay the United States, the states have, for everyone that they bring. What are we doing now? Oh, we have to pay them. President Johnson, when he wrote that U.S. Immigration Naturalizing Act, it's written into the law that they can get on welfare, they can get anything we got, our jobs, and they used to arrest us in that thing that he wrote, which is a violation of the Emoluments Clause. He received flesh from foreign countries. Foreign countries are not supposed to give him nothing. If they want to come here, they have to be under the state. So when they do that, we got so mad back in the day, we would protest the same way they do now. Oh, you could get arrested. They call it ethnic intimidation. And that's why you haven't heard America get up like they getting up now. Because no president, no Congress, and you don't even realize that that's from the Communist Manifesto. It is communism that we're living under. Not one word that Congress do, especially immigration, is in the Constitution. Senator McCarthy say if it's not in the Constitution, it might as well be communist. And you can Google anything I say. Google Communist Revolutionary Party. Anderson Cooper announced about a month or so ago that the CRP was back to fight Donald Trump. And the reason for it was, you see, they've really been running America all these years. They're the ones who putting all this stuff in that America, all us be crying. The white people, the black people, everybody, well, why they get this? Why? Because we're not doing the Constitution. Constitution don't let them get anything except what comes from the state until they be constitutionally naturalized. So that's why I am so grateful. The Queen of the Constitution is so grateful that Bell Global Network saw fit to let the people hear something that you haven't heard probably in about 60 years. Yeah, I know I still look 17 and maybe 25. But I've been out here a long time, and this is my first opportunity in 53 years to talk like this. You just simply couldn't. You never heard it before, have you? And you know why I can do that? Donald Trump. When he came in, I said, my goodness, I couldn't believe that somebody was saying the very same words that I said. Y'all think that what he's saying was wrong, but he got it from me. I walked the halls of D.C. to every office I could. I had my white stretch limo and a police escort, and I told every one of them that I could get to, it was about 150, that I was sick and tired of the Mexicans and the Hispanics and the Haitians. They do not respect women. Any American woman better be scared. And I had 2 restraining orders. One against the Haitian guy and the other against one of the little Spanish guys. Or whatever, Latino, Mexican, that's what he said he was. And when he got to court, he told the judge, he says, well, Your Honor, I love her. And I was so embarrassed. I have received gold seals from President G.W. Bush. President Clinton signed all my welfare reform bills that helped the African American women to start getting back to education and raising their kids without drugs every day. Then that ran out the drug cartels from overseas. You know, the French Connection, all the people. You ain't heard from them since. And I'm going to be dating some Mexican, and I don't know what kind of disease going on, like out there in San Diego now. Don't be surprised if we have to quarantine the whole doggone city. And I was very, very embarrassed. And I went to DCI. I told them, I said, you people need to get up, and I'll be honest with you, off your white behind, and go and try to help the people. So y'all sitting up here, and your people in Florida, all over the white women, oh, good grief, I had to come in and help them. Oh, it was terrible. I tell them, hey, you can't do this here. They're citizens. And then they're going to give me some go. Well, you know, you're going to have to fight now. And the woman would get away. You know, I mean, when I was a child, if you saw a Mexican on the street, 2-year-old, running out, Mom, Dad. Now it looks like they done took over. But believe it or not, they have not taken over. No. And talk about some more illiterate people, savages. They coming over here talking about they helping Americans. Yeah, you helping us to the poorhouse in a big darn hurry. And believe it or not, none of them ever invented anything. You want to talk about your electricity, you want to talk about your telecommunications, you want to talk about your industry, think Granville T. Wood, Elijah McCoy, Eli Whitney, George Washington Carver. They were the ones who sold patents to Edison, Graham Bell. There ain't none of his phone. All you got to do is just Google Granville T. Wood. Or just Google Black Inventors of America. And I know a lot of people out there have illnesses that you have to have prednisone and steroids. That was Dr. Percy LaVon Julian. It wasn't some Mexican. It wasn't some Ecuadorian. You know, those people, they've been savage since the 1600s. And that's why they act like they do. All these different gangs, their mantra is die or kill the other guy before he get to you. That's the way they lived. You can Google their ancestry. Those were the ones who sacrificed their children. And they're still doing the same thing. Only this time they're getting paid to sacrifice the children. Instead of just throwing them in the fire, now they get a check. Just jump across the border and go sell them. And you don't know what happens to those children once those women get those checks. I'm not going to discuss it in an open company. So these are the things that I know that you don't know, and you continue to think that you're going to get anything if you don't start quoting these constitutional clauses. Because you see, they don't do it. The only one that they're doing now is Amendment 14. Because they don't know how to read. The things say all persons born or naturalized and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens. Well, how they going to be subject to the jurisdiction and they just got here from another country where they're subject of that country? And they weren't born here, so how can you be subject to the jurisdiction when they say you got to be born here, naturalized here? So don't let them tell you that their babies are citizens, are not. Especially the Muslim, because as I told you, they have their children puppy mills. Let's move on here. Sanctuary cities. Do you know them people supposed to go to jail? Let me read Article 1, Section 8, Clause 15. Oh, Lord. I know it by heart, but I'm going to read it. Let me find it here. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 15. Oh, here it is. Oh, God. It says to call forth the militia. Do y'all know what a militia is? When they come, if you shot to death, there's no trial. We don't have time. That's the way it was back in the old days when this was written. To call forth the militia just to execute the laws of this book here, the Constitution, and to suppress insurrections. So when you see foreigners going up and down the street, raising all this sand, talking about screw USA and we here to stay and we gonna take you over and all, that's a war. That's an insurrection. The militia is supposed to come and put down every one of them. And then insofar as this invasion they're doing, it says to repel invasion. See, back in the day, shoot, you'd be hard pressed to see an immigrant. Oh, they didn't want this to happen. And back in the 1700s, 1800s, all of these sanctuary city people, first thing would happen to them may not even be a trial. They'd be taken out and shot. They wake up the next morning, somebody slap a blindfold on them and march them out to the wall. Bam. In the 1800s, hung. 1900s, maybe executed like Julius and Ethel Rosenberg. Wouldn't be no rising up against the government. What is an elected official doing rising up against the government? It's almost unbelievable, but I know why it's happening. Because they're not the government. They're from the Communist Manifesto that we're being made to live by. And President Johnson, Tip O'Neill, and all the Democrats back from the day, the reason the communists wanted them was because they had the power. They held power for almost 40 years. So, of course, they worked very hard to get the Democrats on their side. I don't know what they did to do that because I was just a child then. And I was kind of doing a little party myself. So I kind of didn't care. But like now, I'm at the time now where not only do I care, I know that I have to be deeply involved in this. And so I'm trying to find Amendment 14, Section 3. It says that anybody who takes an oath as a member of Congress, the United States, Congress, President, Vice President, or hold any office, civil or military, under the United States, under any state, who haven't taken that oath, if you fail to do so, they call it engaging in insurrection, which is supposed to be shot, rebellion against this country, and giving aid or comfort to the enemies thereof. That's Article 3, Section 3. It says levying war against the United States is giving aid and comfort to their enemy. And I have told Congress over and over again, you're supposed to go pick up every one of those city leaders. And if the government, if that state wants to have those people, they can have them. But you got to pay for it. You remember we read it? Article 1, Section 9, the third clause. It says for each one they import, under today's market, it would be about $300 or $400. You got to pay for it. And then they have to pay duties and such to the United States because they're not supposed to be on Social Security. They're supposed to pay the United States just for working here. And there is no refund because you're not under the jurisdiction of the United States. You get everything from the state until this is all done, until you become constitutionally naturalized. That's what's in this book. When you pull up the U.S. Immigration and Naturalizing Act, as I told you, that is a violation of the Emoluments Clause. Now, that's one of the things that Al Green and Congressman Cohen, they're trying to impeach Trump, talking about he was in violation of that clause. Well, you know, I've been doing this a long time, but I forget to. And I said, well, what is they talking about? And so I called Al Green's office. And this little girl, she said, yes, ma'am, we're charging him with violation of the Emoluments Clause. He's been receiving from the foreigners. She didn't say which one. I said, well, what clause is that? And she said, it's Article 1, Section 9, Clause 8. And I read it. I said, oh, my God. I be looking at it every day. Because I have to deal with Article 1, Section 9, Clause 7 that say Congress can't draw a darn dime from that Treasury if it's not in that Constitution, like you've seen them doing. And insofar as the wall go, that money has already been captured. We'll read that one later. But for now, let's stick to this. So when I looked at that clause, I could have been read it again and again like I used to in school. But I didn't because it starts out by saying, nobility and all that. I said, I don't need to read that. So I read the whole thing. I said, oh, my goodness. It's the United States of America that's in violating that clause because they've been receiving work from these people, okay? They have been receiving people from a foreign country to work to take your job, and they tell you that every day. Well, they can't receive those people. That's a gift from another country. Those people are supposed to go freely through the states, and if the state don't have any charges for them, then the state has to pay directly to the United States just for importing them. So I'm telling you, there's a lot of things going on, and that's why I have to be rough and tough like I am, because otherwise people, they just not going to listen. You'd be surprised at what it said. In Amendment 14, Section 3, it says you cannot question the validity of any debt that's done to suppress insurrection and defend the nation. So they cannot say that they don't have the money to put the wall up, which we need. They're spreading disease everywhere. They're just getting rid of the Haitians before they bring that typhoid cholera to America. Now we down in San Diego, they quarantine for some kind of hepatitis that kills you. So yeah, we gotta have the wall. So how they gonna pay for it? Soon as you stop giving foreigners money that you can't constitutionally and legally give them, you start with the Mexicans so they can get on back across that border. And Obama even sent food stamps over there. All that money. And then I have good knowledge that as much as $530 billion in the last few years has been spent on people that the Constitution says Congress can't do. Well, the wall only costs $24 billion. What? Do they think y'all stupid? They just think y'all stupid. That wall is going to get your jobs back. In fact, about it, since Trump stopped that temporary status mess, people are going back to Florida. I know because I just came from Fort Lauderdale, where the foreigners had a good 60 to 80% of all the jobs. I need a little sip here. They had practically every job imaginable. When I first went there, about 2010, You could get a job. Everybody could get a job. Hospitals, the restaurants, CVS and all that. When I left there this year, just about everybody working were Haitian, Latino, Cuban, especially in the nursing homes and the hospitals. Now is the time to research the hiring process, even the supermarkets. One of my friends down there told me that one of the big stores now has gotten rid of, well, they haven't gotten rid of them. Donald Trump got them out of here, and Americans are now working. We gonna get this country back. And I need you people to stop being so mad at Donald Trump. Because if he wasn't doing what he's doing, I would sue him just like I sued Obama for doing that. You remember he went down trying to bring, 5 million people? And we going to put them on y'all Social Security, and then y'all going to have to give us some jobs. Oh, he went down. If Donald Trump wasn't doing what he's doing now, he's doing what's in here. And he don't even really know it. He just think it looks stupid that people can come and beat us up and take all of our jobs, kill our women, children, rape them. He just said, I'm tired. But he didn't do that on his own. Remember, I walked the halls of D.C. for about 3 or 4 days before he made that speech. And when I heard it on the internet, I almost fainted. I said, oh my God, somebody actually heard what I said. I said that first. It wasn't none of him. Wasn't Donald Trump said that first. Maybe he heard it, because I'm very well known in D.C. Maybe he didn't. But the fact that his mind thinks like my mind lets me know that before it's over, we're going to get this country back. And I need the Democrats, whether you white or black, you better understand they are not your leaders. They're communist leaders. Why do you think everything is going wrong? Who do you think sent all the drugs to our country? It was President Johnson who did that. And on Black Lives Matter, you people need to find out. You're doing it wrong. If you want to get the money, it's in here. You need to call me or watch my shows, and you'll find out. Instead of marching out the street, burning up flags and calling people supremacists and all that, they ain't supreme. Some of them in worse shape than you are. You need to go down south to Florida, California. Shoot, they on the street on their knees begging. So you're doing that wrong. When you tell them what's in here, they can't do anything but listen to you, and the press will listen to you. And don't wear those clothes. Go out there looking real clean and neat, and have your signs have a bunch of constitutional clauses on it. And believe it or not, under Article 1, Section 8, Clause 1, they have to pay you the money back that they have been giving to foreigners for 53 years. They're going to have to make a settlement with every American citizen whose heritage is before 1965. After that, if your parents just came here, you part of the problem, so don't you apply. So I'm just telling you, and you know how I know this is true? I already won the case. You know I would have. That was count 2. When I had to send my briefs in on Obama trying to take your money and give it to 5 million more people, count 2, I demanded a $10 trillion refund to every American citizen whose heritage is before 1965. And Judge Williams, she gonna tell me, well, I ain't gonna do it. But you know, when Obama went down, the court said that he could not give that money. If he couldn't give that money, that means no other president or Congress could do it. That means they have to pay you your money back like President Johnson said they was going to do. Oh, don't worry, we're not stealing y'all money. You're going to get it back in an income tax refund with interest. We ain't seen a dime. So you guys need to start learning. And the courts, we got to shut them down too. All the district courts, every one of them that jump up and try to stop Donald Trump, because he the one going to bring you your job back. You know, so, and I just told you about the anchor babies. Forget about it. They got to go down too. And I'm glad I was able to tell you about the 14th Amendment, but you still need to watch more. You know, each time I do a show, try to watch. And believe me, you will finally start to get mad. I'm telling you, if you know what I know, and I think I pretty much covered all the subjects for today. Now, if you want to destroy yourself, if you want to continue self destruction, then just keep running out the Democrats. That's the Communist Party. If you want to live like we used to live with less trouble. Oh, and by the way, you can still get paid for Selma. It's in here. You'd be surprised what's in there. They ain't gonna tell you though. Only I will do that. So now, the U.S. Queen of Constitutional Law, the gangster of the Constitution, has to bid you adieu for now. But I'm coming back. And you can Google me. I'm on a lot of different stations. But this station here is the best one because they give me a whole hour. So if you want to hear some more of my stuff, just Google Gangster of the Constitution. Probably YouTube. Yeah, it's on YouTube. Google that and you will see your queen of the Constitution. Nobody can beat me. Anybody think they can, bring $1,000. Put it on the table. If you win, take it with you. If you don't, leave it on the table. That's all I can tell you. And I would advise that you don't show up. Because I'm just charging you the $1,000 for taking up my time and worrying me. You should have already known better. So anyway, thanks once again to the Bell Network. You know, they are great people, and they're giving you a chance to come into the future. Now, our next show, we're going to be talking about how to come into the future, how to get your money, how to survive, how not to be afraid of the government. There ain't nobody. I walk up in D.C. and just tell everybody off. And you see what happened to John Conyers, Franken, and all those people who were elected officials. That's what they be doing behind your back. They go up there and don't be studying you. Conyers didn't do a darn thing for Detroit. I need some of you young people to get your thinking cap on and run for that seat and have the Constitution book in your hand. So have a great day, and I look forward to seeing you again on the Bell Television Network.